I mean, we used to say this with the Internet of Things revolution and, smart sensors and, how we get different types of data from that. But I think the conversation has shifted towards generative AI because it's impacting knowledge workers more than, some of the other stuff, which was impacting, maintenance workers or people who have more
Yeah,
physical jobs.
nobody was expecting this, were we? We
Yeah.
were expecting AI to be doing some of the so-called boring jobs, and then we thought that computer programmers and all the knowledge workers were safe, and it turned out to be the exact opposite.
But that's what's so exciting, right? That we have whole-scale disruption, and it's up to us to think about what it is that we do with that disruption. So for me, that's very exciting. So on that point of sort of the transformation, you mentioned workforce displacement. So there are people who've been in their roles, delivering training, standing up with PowerPoints for many, many years, who, from what we're talking about, might perceive that there is a threat to their role. What should they do?
That's very deep conversation, one I've been having iterations of pretty much on a daily basis. But really, if you look at the business, and especially the line of business where I come from, which is vendor technology enablement classes, which is, you can look at it in the frame of a technological propaganda in some sort, because you have like those monstrous multi-billion companies which are enabling their partners to work with their solutions in a better way. This business, it was essentially the same ever since IBM invented the mainframe. It was just a different type of slides. The slides were physical, but then they moved to PowerPoint and so on. It's been ripe for disruption for years now. My thought is that the role of the trainer, tutor, instructor, whatever you want to call the person, is going to change a bit. And it's no longer going to be about content delivery, but rather about coaching people, about helping them, motivating them, about kind of merging training with consulting, which was already happening in some of the closed group classes where you do a training just for one group. So anything which is repetitive, which can be defined and is covered by some documentation, some form of a documentation, be it a book or a presentation or a video recording of the class, all that is covered by the AI agent, or we call them personas because they're multi-agentic. Actually, they have some kind of an internal thought. So once you do that, you're left with a real filter for the really good instructors who can provide unique value to their customers, and that will unfortunately mean that we'll have to drop some people. That's the reality. They will have to adapt, but the rest, the ones who will be with us after this transformation, they'll be able to charge more for their time, and they'll be doing a much more interesting job for a wider variety of customers, and they'll have more freedom. So in essence, we'll be able to kind of clone them, build either virtual copies of them, or build a cumulative trainer on a specific topic, which will be a combination of the best trainers with their materials and so on. So that's what I think will happen for not just for professional training and upskilling. I really think this is the future of school teachers, of university professors as well. Why should we be doomed to some subpar teacher? I mean, I'm sure you've suffered the same. I mean, I'm sure everyone who's viewing this has suffered the same. Tens of years of our lives using subpar instructors. Why? Why do we need to do that in 2025?
So there are a number of implications for that, right? Because first of all, I'm usually a fan of things that help us to somehow sort out the best from the mediocre, right? I think that's always going to be valuable. We have, of course, the potential for change in terms of business models, employment models, and things like that, where we say, well, actually, no company will ever employ a trainer now, because what we have is a sector could have access to the best. The medical sector could have the access to the best medical trainers, and that would be a cohort of people, and you can effectively crowdsource that, or that leads to fractional employment and things like that, which unfortunately means that the people who are not the best, not the top, whatever percent, 16% of a normal distribution, those top people are going to get the jobs, and the people who don't have the skills are not going to be employed. That leads to a societal consideration, and that societal consideration is the displacement of people and employment from AI. And that opens the door to things like, well, what should we do about universal basic income? So how do we make sure that everybody's got enough to eat, has access to resources and all of these things? Is there an easy solution to this? Probably not, but what do you think?
I don't think there is an easy solution to this, but I'm really surprised that in 2025 we are still pointing news at each other, whereas this is the only thing which should be bothering us. This is the biggest opportunity of our lifetime. We can literally change the course of our civilization over a couple of years, and it's not like it's something new. I spent the whole summer of 2013 in the NASA Ames Research Park in a place called the Singularity University. I was there it was led by Ray Kurzweil, Peter Diamandis, Ben Gyortzel, who I think invented the term AGI, was there delivering a lecture, mingling with us, and we were looking at, all right, what are the implications on this in our businesses, in our technological businesses, but also on society. And because AI is not just like a technology which happens somewhere in a vacuum. It's going to be everywhere. There isn't going to be software anymore. I mean, there already isn't. I mean, if you take a look at software development companies, already a big chunk of the software is being produced by AI, and the judgment stays with the humans, with tools like Cursor and Windsurf. So that's going to happen everywhere. We're going to be able to program life itself. So it's a big question. And honestly, I'm a little bit worried that I don't hear this on the news. At least the people in power who I know here and there, mainly talking continental Europe here, there isn't a proper discussion about this. Like we're just talking about daily stuff, which is, yes, it is important, but there isn't a proper discussion. So honestly, my answer to you is I don't know. However, I'm sure you've read there was a study funded by OpenAI, by Sam Altman, I think personally, on UBI, and they gave certain cohorts of people, I think it was $1,000 per month for a considerable amount of time. Nothing happened. There wasn't a change in any of the parameters which they were monitoring. And I really think that we have this innate need for some kind of a meaning, for our own need to feel that we're doing something meaningful, to have a purpose, if you wish, in life, find spirituality of some sort, if you want. So those are really big questions. There is no question that the Earth, as it is, if we stop bickering with each other, can feed the population. The population is going down anyway. Once you get civilized, you have less kids. That's very clear. And we'll have the problem of not having enough humans quite soon, rather than we're already seeing this all over Europe and sure the UK as well.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big problem. I think automation should play a big role here, especially with robotics, because when you take a look at the plans of companies like Unitree, like Tesla with their robots, like Figure, they have these impressive demos, and all of them are thinking of having billions of humanoid robots. So there should be some kind of a tax on robotics. But at the same time, we're looking at a future where really intelligence, what we call intelligence, might be privatized. It already is, maybe, by a couple of companies, like 5 or 6 companies. And who's playing a role in this in our part of the pond? Mistral in France, maybe? Who else? So it's going to be interesting. I certainly hope it doesn't end in a disastrous way. Ray Kurzweil's predictions were we're going to get general intelligence by 2029, and we're going to get a singularity type of an event by 2045. So we are talking about this interval of time, by his predictions, 15, 16 years. I think we're moving actually a bit faster than his predictions. So we're going to get what we call AGI probably next year. If not this year, for a lot of the jobs. And we're going to see that with a wholly unprepared society, with a wholly unprepared government system. So I hope there is someone who's smart and in a position of power listening to this and similar podcasts and reading books and articles and paying attention, really, not being a populist.